My next guest has been on my show many times. I have. I'm sorry, David. I am so taken by the way that was just done there. That was crazy. David Fisher. He is the CEO of Landmark Capital Gold, and you have been on many, many times. And I'm sorry that happened like that. I didn't even realize that we were on the show yet. So, welcome to the show. Tell everybody a little bit about you, about some exciting things that are going on with you, and what you're here to talk about today.
Well, first of all, again, thank you for having me as your regular on your show. I've done lots of radio, KFYI, KFNN 1510. I used to have actually my own radio program before that was called The Market Close. I've done IRA radio programs for an hour long called Wealth Wednesdays on another talk show host program quarterly. I wrote lots of articles. I've been on national radio quite a bit here recently on 3 different national radio programs. So, and a little bit about our company. We're accredited members with the Better Business Bureau, and we have an A+ rating. And in our industry, there's affiliates that's equivalency to the BBB, which is called ICTA, Industry Council Tangible Asset, and we're a member of ICTA, our company is, and we also are members of PCGS and NGC, which are grading facilities, affiliates that are governing agencies in our industry that grade coins, and to be a member, that's a status. So.
Now, you've been on many times here just to get the word out, also to help people hear what you've been talking about. Tell them, because it's somewhat scary, but and I know that you've said many times that you're not here to scare people, but at the same time, you want to educate them. Go ahead.
Yeah, our company is founded on three basic principles of educate, which means to help people understand the purpose of having gold and silver in one's portfolio, either inside their retirement or outside the retirement, called over the counter. And by the way, in the retirement, if we have time, we'll talk more about this at the end. There's a method that was established by a lawyer here in Phoenix where you can now take physical possession of your metals within the umbrella of your retirement and not have a tax liability called a distribution. So we've helped thousands of people do that. So that's a big key. But we facilitate what people want to do. And then when we find the best value, we develop a strategy, a tailor-made program that I call the financial blueprint that helps people, be in the right product based upon their age, their risk tolerance level, what they're trying to accomplish. Do they want to protect from currency devaluation, inflation? Do they want to grow their portfolio or hand it down to their heirs? But
David, are you the only ones that you said you're one of them, and I'm not sure that can do this, where they can take their IRAs and turn them into gold?
Well, there's a loophole in the law. Why don't we say it's a loophole? It's just not a very well-known law called the Taxpayer Relief Act. It was passed in 1997, and most companies in my industry are not even aware of this. But if we went back to the year 2000, most companies didn't even know you could actually even put metals in a retirement, physical metals. That was established by this law. And then as time has gone on, the industry has come to the understanding that they can do that. Still only less than 10% of the companies have devised a plan or figured out a way or have a smart attorney like we do where they can actually take physical possession of the metals under the umbrella of the IRA. So most 90% of the other companies, you have to store your metals in a third-party depository. You never see them. And the ones of the 10% category, which is what we're in, their fee structure between $995 to $1,995 for the lawyers to take care of this, and our lawyer does it for $385. So not only can you do it, it's
doable.
Most cost-effective thing I've ever seen out there.
Now, you are going to today give a couple different things, and I know we're going to talk about the things that you've been talking about lately as the bail-in and all of that, but also you want to give out a little bit about this 10 common mistakes to avoid when purchasing, physical precious metals. What is one of them?
Buying coins off eBay are a good value, and most people don't understand that you don't get a buyback, you don't get any experience, you don't get knowledge. Another one is, this just happened the other day. This may sound very funny, but I went into, just for fun, I went into a local coin shop here in Phoenix, and I'm not going to say the name because I don't want to disrespect them. They're very well known, though. They have thousands of coins. And I work with the largest wholesaler, and I get a list between $10 to $12 million of coins that are available in the market that are good, what you call investment quality products. So in walking into this local coin shop, I just said, I wonder if there's any good quality coins here. Out of the thousands of coins, I saw only one, and it was a great value, actually, and I bought it. But I said to myself, okay, I was getting ready to give them my card, and they said, no, we don't take that. We have to take cash. So I had to go down to Wells Fargo, go get cash. It was very inconvenient. So the facility, was secure, but the procedures wasn't very convenient for the consumer. But I thought to myself, this coin was about $400 below what you call the liquid value of the market. So yeah, it was a good buy for me if I'm buying, and I knew what to buy and what not to buy. But imagine the person that sold it to this company, they didn't get full market value when they sold it. So that's a big difference between us and many companies. Going into a local mom and pop's coin shop, there's no strategy. There's just a glass case of coins, and pick and choose on your own, and there's no vehicle for an investment strategy, an entry and an exit strategy, and no relationship along the way from being in the market. So there's several things that are missed that in this pamphlet I put together, 10 of them, and there's a few other myths about having metals in your retirement and physical possession. That is included in that brochure.
I want to give out some of your information, which is your phone number, which is 602-287-9200, landmarkgold.com. Do you want me to give out the toll-free as well?
No, just do the local.
We're going to just do the local today, 602-287-9200. Okay. Before we give out all of these other things that you've got here, I want to talk about what you want to talk about today.
Well, last time I was on your show, I said something for the first time on radio, and I've done lots of radio since I started 22 years ago. I said, America is bankrupt, and your eyes got really big, and your jaw dropped, and I was as has happened a few times when I've been on your show. And I said, let me repeat it again. America is bankrupt. And we explained why. Well, since then, just the last time, it's been 10 days or something like that? Treasury Secretary Jacob Lew, our Treasury Secretary, wrote a letter to Congress a week ago last Thursday, October 1st, that said unless Congress acts immediately on or around November 5th, we will have, for the first time in our history, a government default on our financial obligations. Yeah, your eyes are big now, aren't they? People don't think this is, some people think, this is crazy. Where's he coming up with this? Okay, go Google it. I have the letter right here. The Secretary of Treasury wrote it, and he sent it to several Congress members, Nancy Pelosi and many others. And the reality is that the fact that we're even talking about is insane. Here's the letter right here. So he goes on and says he has limited ability to do what you call extraordinary measures. And that's a term that he thinks that as the Treasury Secretary, he has the ability or the right to play the shell game, take funds from the different funds within the government and not fund other funds like the pension funds for the government and sustain the debt freeze the debt at a certain level, which we'll get into after the break talking about all that, because the reality is the government doesn't have any, or the Treasury doesn't have any money right now. They only have $30 billion, and put it into perspective, that is about 1 day of government spending. Sometimes we spend as much as $60 billion. So he says Congress needs to act immediately, otherwise we could possibly have a default for the first time in the history of our country.
How scary, by November 5th.
November 5th, that's
Wow.
the date.
It
is an actual date. It could be a day or so before or after that, but it's going to happen sometime around that if we don't act.
We're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk further. You have some things that you're going to give away. One of them is going to be the 10 common mistakes to avoid when purchasing physical precious metals. Our number here is 602-277-5369. Toll free, it's 1-866-536-1100. You can chime in. You can ask questions. You can check him out on his website. It is landmarkgold.com, and his phone phone number is 602-287-9200. We'll be back in just a minute. We're back. We're talking with David Fisher. He is the CEO of Landmark Gold, Landmark Capital Gold. David, when we went to a break, you were telling me that you really want to talk a little bit about what's happening, what you talked about before, which is we're obviously bankrupt as a country, and what's happening around November 5th.
Correct. We just haven't filed the paperwork for bankruptcy, but we're acting like a bankrupt country. We're doing the same things that Greece did years ago. We're taking funds from different funds within the government and making commitments to people that we can't keep financially. Back in 2011, we had a credit downgrade. In other words, the ability for our country to make its bills, we had our credit rating downgraded. And if you remember then, this was in August, the front of Time magazine had a picture of George Washington with a black eye on it, and there's a big write-up about it. Most people don't understand how significant it is. That's happened 3 times in our country's history. It says that currently then and moving forward, we cannot pay our bills. Here we are 4 years later, and we're seeing the ramifications of this. We almost had the event that might happen on November 5th or thereabout happen back in 2011, but here's what they did instead. The Treasury had a significant amount of money in its coffers, an ability to take funds from different government pensions, and that's what they did to avoid this thing called a default on our debt. It's not a government shutdown, it's a default, which is different from the government shutting down. This is the government still keeps going. They just don't pay the financial obligations like the treasuries. And so in 2011, we borrowed $46 billion from the Civil Service Disability Fund and Retirement Fund. Recently, we borrowed $26 billion from the Currency Destabilization Fund back in March. We haven't paid those funds back. And they also halted contributing government pensions. So there's been no pensions, money has been added to the government pensions for over 3 years now. On top of this, what has happened now is, come November 5th, we don't have the money that we had back in 2011 at the Treasury level to be able to rob from these different funds. And so this time around, we won't have weeks or months to maneuver in what Jacob Lew calls extraordinary maneuvers. We have a day or two. And as you know, John Boehner just stepped down. And Kevin McCarthy was going to be the Speaker of the House, and he didn't get enough votes. So here we have a dysfunctional Republican Party that, in essence, do we have a Speaker? Don't we have? I mean, Boehner said he's going to stay on board, but this has to go through Congress to raise the debt ceiling. Because if they don't, we will have a default. And just to help you understand, the debt ceiling is something that was established in 1917. So that Congress, our government, would not overspend. The purpose of it was we were getting ready to help participate in a war. And so we didn't have enough money. So they said, let's just borrow into the future, but let's create a ceiling so we don't get out of control on this. Well, since then, they've raised the debt ceiling 96 times. So it's insane what we're doing. Raising the debt ceiling doesn't say we're going to spend more money, but it says we're going to continue to fund what we've already allocated for spending. So it's kind of like the chicken or the egg. Which one came first? Should we have a budget that's balanced and say let's live within our budget, not overspend, or should we have a debt ceiling that says we can't go above this level? Either way, we just continue to spend. And the problem is now hitting the skids because this year, the top 5 countries, this just came out a week ago, who hold our U.S. debt called Treasury bills have sold massive amounts. In fact, the U.S. Treasury reported that this year has been the biggest sell-off since the year 1978, since they've started reporting the sale of countries selling treasuries. So at the end of the day, somebody has to hold the dollar, our debt, because when we don't have enough money, the Treasury has to create a Treasury bill, which is the money that is used to continue to pay the government in its indebtedness. So we have several things happening simultaneously. Countries selling dollars, which doesn't help our debt. No way of getting the money to get us through this period of November 5th. This is why November 5th could be a major financial catastrophe for our country. And this is why it's imperative now that people put some money in gold and silver.
That's what I was going to say, because if they can't get it from anybody else and there's not enough time, where are they going to get it from? That's why I want to know.
That's why, you mean where there's the government going to get the money?
Yeah.
That's where we're going. That is the bail-in. That is the thing that the Dodd-Frank Act was passed for. I'm going to get very passionate now because people, we just got to connect the dots and see the pieces of the puzzle. At the end of the day, somebody has to hold the bag and somebody has to hold the dollar. And at the end of the day, if the rest of the world doesn't, it is the responsibility of Americans. That's why when you look at the national debt, it says your portion you pay. Okay, that's what it's all about. The debt and the burden of the dollar falls on the backs of Americans. That's why they created this bill in 2010 called the Dodd-Frank Act. So I'm fearful, like I've never been before, that this could trigger. I'm not saying I don't want to scare people, but I want to wake people up because this is a reality. This is all mainstream news. This is not something fabricated. All I have to do is go to Google and start typing in the debt ceiling, defaulting on the debt, a government shutdown, all those things, China selling treasuries, 5 major countries selling the dollar, the bail-in, or some people call it a one-off wealth tax. It's all there. It's on our government's website, fdic.gov. And so this is why getting a portion of your money into precious metals before this event is huge, because this has happened already in 12 countries the last 5 years. These things that are happening right now happened in Greece a whole bunch of times. They just did it again. And I said 3 years ago, not on your program, but on radio, I said, you just watch. The government's going to pass a law or come up with an idea to create a law and probably pass it that says when the pension funds don't have enough money, the government's going to mandate and say that's okay. Well, the articles have been coming up in October 7th and October 6th. Large pension fund files plan to cut retirement benefits under new law. People said to me when I said this on the radio, you're crazy. That'll never happen in our country. Just like they're saying the bail-in will never happen in our country. It is in mainstream media, the Washington Post, CNN. These are the articles I have right in front of me. This is mainstream media, and the government wants to propose a 23+% haircut for 1,500 companies representing 10 million people. Because by 2026, most of these pensions will be insolvent. They won't have money. So this is why they got to go to find the money from somewhere, and that's why there's $18 trillion in debt. There's $18 trillion in retirement. Do the math. It's real simple.
Now, you do free consultations because the thing is that people don't realize that that they can do this, and that you figured out a way for them to be able to do it. And if they don't, let's say they don't want to necessarily take their money that in their IRA, but they should still buy gold. Right?
Yeah, people have insurance on their car, but they don't want to get a wreck. People have insurance on their home called homeowners insurance, just in case there's a fire. Health insurance, life insurance. Why do you have that? Just in case. Because we don't know what uncertainty may come to our lives. Gold and silver is wealth insurance. If they do a bail-in, and the IMF, International Monetary Fund, says it's between 56 to 71% seizing the asset, the government wants to do that. Imagine if you had just a portion outside of that system and you saved yourself financially through this financial insurance plan called gold and silver. It also could be probably one of the best investments because they're either going to do that or they're going to have to raise interest rates to cause inflation to take care of our debt. Either way, gold and silver is an incredible investment during inflationary times.
Now,
probably the best.
You're giving everybody the 10 common mistakes to avoid when purchasing physical precious metals. Our number here is 602-277-5369. Toll free, it's 1-866-536-1100. You can call in. We're going to get you that. We're going to give you the white paper on the bail-in, the coming bail-in, and you can check him out at landmarkgold.com or call him direct at 602-287-9200. We have only a short time, so tell him what you want him to do.
If you don't take care of your money, then it might not be there to take care of you. And Noah built the ark before it rained. And every financial catastrophe that we have faced, like in 2008, 99.99% of the people said ahead of time, it'll never ever happen. And that's human nature saying America's too big, too great, too wealthy, too whatever. But the reality is the same things that caused the 2008 to happen is now at the threshold of our economy and our government again. Overspending and leverage money. Diversifying the precious metals, because this time there won't be any bailout. It's going to be a bail-in.
Their phone number is 602-287-9200. He does free consultations. I'm going to let you call throughout the rest of the show for the 10 common mistakes to avoid when purchasing precious metals. Again, our number here is 602-277-5369. Check him out at landmarkgold.com.